welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets, the show that is brought to you in part by Wrightwood Medical. You can reach Wrightwood Medical for all of your refurbished medical needs. They can be reached online at www.wrightwoodmedical.com, Wrightwood with a W. RIGHTWOOD medical.com. You can reach them directly at 773-848-7100. Before we bring Mike McLaughlin on, a few words about the debacle that occurred at the Ryder Cup. I wish we had Beamer on. We had Beamer on. He made some time for us last week, which was great. Where do I begin? I believe, I'm going to put this bluntly, that the American players are motivated, I told this to Rich many times, by money and not by the aura of playing for country or playing for something bigger than themselves, playing a team game. Look at what occurred. They were incredible on Sunday in the singles matches when all 12 guys had to play head-on. America stood proudly, but that's very symbolic of the game they're used to, which is a weekly tournament on the PGA Tour where they're playing for money. So that brought out that juice in them. Seeing Scotty Scheffler play in the team game was embarrassing. He looked like a deer in the headlights. Seeing these guys, the only guys that I saw out there that truly look like team players, it's just who they are. It's Justin Thomas. It was Bryson DeChambeau. It was J.J. Spawn on Sunday. Excuse me, on the first 2 days, playing amazingly as a rookie. But I say that also, there was no way the Americans were going to beat the Europeans at this Ryder Cup. The Europeans were that good. To put it in context, when DeChambeau and Scheffler played against Fleetwood and Rose on Saturday, they were 16 under. Okay, Scheffler and DeChambeau, and they were beaten soundly. The match was over after 16 holes. Okay, so the Americans played incredibly well. They didn't choke. There is no great story. They came back. They fought on bravely on Sunday. It wasn't meant to be. So you golf nerds out there that think that this was some abomination and how dare they lose at Bethpage Black on home turf, the Europeans beat them. That's just the bottom line. They beat them. They were the better team. All the nonsense with McIlroy's wife getting hit with a beer can, that's just the bravery that we've kind of suffered into as a country that came out at the Ryder Cup. I have no comments on that, either good or bad. Wasn't fun to watch, but I guess that's again, like I said, that's where we're at. So that's it. We'll have Rich on. We'll break it down more in future months, but the golf season is put to rest. We are in full-fledged, football season right now. Mike, you are leading me, my friend. You were 2-1 last week. I was 0-3. That moves the needle to you are 7-5. I am 4-8. Folks, the greatness of Taking It to the Streets is we come back. I don't know where you get your stuff from, but we come back, we look the camera right in the eye, and we tell you what we did last week. Okay, do you think it's fun for me to tell you that I was 0-3 and that I'm 4-8 for the season? No, but it separates me from ESPN and Fox and whoever else you're getting your stuff from. So it is what it is. Mike, on the other hand, has been very solid of late, and we'll get to our picks shortly. Mike, what did you see? What did you learn this week in the NFL?
Well, I want to return to my ongoing segment. I took the numbers down again, and I double-checked them this time. And 14-2 against the spread if you knew the winner. So the spread didn't play a role in 14 of the 16 games. So you're always quoting stats at me like a key number. It gives you like a 14% edge. I kind of gloss over and don't pay attention because I don't care. I think I've mentioned this, but I'm going to give you a stat. So if you knew the winner of the game, of every game this year, your rate would be over 79%. regardless of what the spread is. So that's 80%. That's a pretty big number, isn't it?
Definitely.
So I understand there are numbers where you can get burned on, and these numbers are shifting.
Okay. In your numbers, did you include the Green Bay game? Did you include the Bears game?
According to what number? The Green Bay game was that was the Green Bay game. The Green Bay game was one of the two. Buffalo did not cover in Green Bay. The Bears were a pick 'em on ours. You picked the Raiders as a pick 'em, if you recall.
During the week, that's what's tough about this. During the week, the Bears did go to being a 1.5-point favorite. But we can't. We can't do the what ifs because that's our rule. We go by DraftKings on current.
And listen, Bears shouldn't have won that game. And but blocked field goals are becoming more and more a part of every single game. It seems like in the special teams, that the kickers are amazing, but it seems like the defenses are. I mean, we never used to see this many block kicks on, especially like field goals. And now there are guys blocking them week in and week out. So when I say they shouldn't have won, I'm not disparaging the Bears. I'm saying you should hit that field goal. And they did a good job blocking it. But
how about Dallas? How about Dallas blocking an extra point, taking it back for 2, and the game ends on a tie?
Yeah, no, well, that's why I'll come off as a broken record. That's why it's the hardest sport in the world to pick, because it's Plinko every week. It can just one bad call, one ref deciding to be a hero and call a leaping or leverage play like they did in the Denver game can shift the outcome of games. I mean, it's like, and a block kick like that. So you can, I think it's, some of this is random, and that's why I don't get bogged down with the numbers. Although if I had the chance this week, I would only make one pick and I don't even like that pick. So I think it's a tough week.
Okay. Give me what you've learned thus far.
Well, the tie, I don't think anybody was happier to tie that ball game than Jerry Jones. I mean, there's an old saying, if a tie is like kissing your sister. I've never seen anybody more excited to kiss his sister the way Jerry Jones was acting after that game. You would have thought that they won the Super Bowl. And the reality is that's the way Dallas runs their organization. They're a reality TV show. They care more about looking good than they do about winning. And the story, I mean, they overpay for every single one of their superstars because Jerry spends the offseason generating hype about what's he going to do, what's he not going to do. It's the greatest reality TV show, and it's a terrible way to run an organization. The Eagles sign all their guys early. Who would you rather be for the next 5 years, the Eagles or the Cowboys? I don't care if they have 2 first-round draft picks. I'm taking the Eagles every day because they know how to manage their cap. They don't have a billionaire oilman who's more P.T. Barnum than he is, a real general manager running their team. So it's, they're going to be living off this. Well, Micah Parsons really didn't impact the game, so we won the trade. It's like nobody knows who won the trade. I mean, it was damning for the Packers not to win that game, and I'm a little concerned about their offense. We saw them dominate against Detroit in that opening week, but they haven't looked good since. I mean, they
scored 10 points against Cleveland.
Yeah,
let's take Green Bay's not winning a championship.
Well, I mean,
and they paid championship money to get Micah Parsons on their team.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I mean, it's week 4. I mean, it's a quarter of the season. You measure what you need to see is growth. And so I'm not willing to say that they are not going to win a championship, but they need to fix some things. And they especially need to fix some things on offense because they're not getting Jacobs going as well as I think they need to, because that's when they have been most successful the last couple of years, is when Jacobs is the hammer. And another thing that I still cannot figure how NFL coaches haven't not figured out is the Cardinals game, which I know we're going back to Thursday. Cardinals are down 14. They score a touchdown. They do not go for 2 then. There is zero logic. This is where I will use statistics again. You have got to go for 2 when you're down 14. And people say, well, what if you miss it? Well, you have a 50% chance of converting according to fourth 2-point conversions. You convert at sometimes a little over 50%. So now if I go for 2 on the first one and don't get it, I still have the chance to go for 2 and tie it. But then it puts all kinds of pressure on the other team to then do it and to push the ball down. So coaches don't do it, and it's because they'll have be some idiot on sports radio the next morning who says, well, "Why'd they go for 2 when they were down 14?" Well, you do it because it makes statistical sense. You're already behind. You need to take chances, and I just cannot understand teams that don't know this. I mean, analytics is a part of football, and people that aren't using it are, can't continue to be employed.
But Mike, how do you have a kicker that doesn't get it past the zone at the end of the game, which moved Seattle to the 40 from the 20?
Yeah, and
How in the world do you have a kicker employed at that level that you're just, it's a no-brainer, kick it out of the end zone? He doesn't get it past the zone. We go out to the 40, and Seattle wins the game by 3.
here's where you're putting me in corners I don't like to be put in. I'm having to defend a kicker, and I don't even know who this kicker is.
I think it's Chad Ryland.
Very well, maybe, but that I don't want to know his name. He's a kicker. I only know Chase McLaughlin, and that's because his same last name, no relation. But my point is, in defense of them, this rule has only been in effect for 2 years, and they are, and the new rule where they get it at the 35 has only been for 1 year. So it's not like they're doing this at any other level of football either. There's no training for this. I know everybody says it's easy to kick a field goal. Trust me, nobody who's listening to this is going out and hitting a 35-yard field goal with 90,000 people on. No, he barely missed it, but to me, it didn't make sense. I almost would have just kicked it through the end zone, but then the penalty of it being at the 35 to me it's too much. I mean, they need to figure out, last year when it was at the 30, everybody kicked it into the end zone. They're like, all right, we don't care. I don't know if you go to 32 and a half. I don't know what you do, but getting it at the 40 is, with kickers these days, you can hit a 50, they can hit some 50. So they've got to do something, and they're weirdly letting the kickers hold on to the balls, which they haven't done in the past, and that I think is impacting the kicking. So, but like we talked about that last week. I don't need to make that point, but we got to see the return of, we got to be introduced to Jackson Dart, and along with his mother and her leather pants. She's seems to be the new darling of New Jersey, and I am concerned about him long term because Dable is going to run him into the ground to save his job, and that kid is getting. He looked. Riley Leonard played that Notre Dame Ohio State game last year. They ran him like 9 times on the first drive. That's what it felt like every time Dart was in there. It is not sustainable. He is not Tim Tebow, and that's a compliment to him that he's not that bad, but he can't be running as much as he was, and he's going to be on IR in 3 weeks if he continues to do that. And I'm concerned that Dable does not care about whether he makes it or not, because then he's got the excuse, well, I lost my starting quarterback. Well, yeah, you lost him because you ran him into the ground.
Right.
The Browns, I saw just before we started, the Browns are switching to get Dylan Gabriel, not Shador Sanders, because he's their 3rd round pick, not their 5th round pick, and because he's played better than him, and mainly because I don't understand the plan of having Joe Flacco out there to begin with. The first 2 weeks, I think he threw the ball 90 times. And you gotta show, if you're going to spend the money, you're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league, despite how good your defense is. But you got to find out what you got with the 2 rookies. At some point, Shador, if Gabriel is ineffective, Shador should be the next man up. It shouldn't be Flacco. What are we going to learn with Joe Flacco at quarterback? So I'm glad to see they're doing it. They're playing over in London against Minnesota, who played in Dublin and then got to stay an extra week. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare because they had a ton of injuries on the offensive line. I mean, offensive linemen seem to be dropping like flies. Like Joe Alt, who gets more love, I think, on this podcast than any other one. He went down, and now the Chargers are, without Becton, without Slater. At some point, they're as good of a coach as Harbaugh is. There is a point of no return, and
Right.
and the Giants absolutely just made Herbert's life a living hell on Sunday because the one thing they can do is get after the passer on defense, and if without an offensive line, it's problematic for 'em. So,
Right.
but it'll the Eagles game, I will say there is no fan base that is better represented by their coach than the Eagles. Sirianni is trash. He's a horrible human being. He's just a loudmouth. It represents everything I associate with the city of Philadelphia. So he perfectly personifies that city. As you can tell, I have no love lost for the city of Philadelphia,
Nor New Orleans.
nor New Orleans. New Orleans is personal, but Philadelphia, you know, give the Bucks credit. I I came on here and gave you every reason why they were going to lose, and for a half I looked like a genius, and then for the second half I didn't care about my bet. All I wanted them to do was come back, and they could have, but they just you can't put yourself in that kind of a hole. I mean, blocked punt. I mean, that's the second block punt of the season. They're going to have to do something with their special teams. But I will give the Eagles credit, and I'm loath to do that. But they find a way to win. And you know, I do think they may have a problem on their hands with AJ Brown, though. He had a cryptic tweet out this Sunday after the game where I think he had 7 yards. I mean, the Bucks defense played very well in the second half, but AJ Brown is the kind of guy who I think would rather have 200 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, and lose than win a game like he did on Sunday, where he was targeted 9 times. He had 7 yards. I mean, they're trying to get you the ball. You may be part of the problem. So
Right.
I I don't have, it'll be interesting to see what they do because they're a good organization, they tend to figure out if this guy's going to be a long-term problem or if he's somebody they can fix. So Howie Roseman is, to me, one of the better GMs in the league. He knows talent. Of course, I know drafting the Georgia defensive line is not a terrible idea when they were one of the most dominant defensive line. I don't know how the rest of the league allowed that to happen, but they did. But it'll be interesting to see if he becomes, the classic diva receiver. I mean, you could see it festering there, and
It feels like Terrell Owens again. It feels like Terrell Owens.
they know the playbook on that. He will drag you down if you let him.
Right.
So those are sort of the things that I've focused on this week. But no, I think like I said, I was telling you, I looked at these games. I had trouble finding one, much less three. So I am not confident going in.
What I've observed of the first quarter of the season is exactly as Vegas has foretold us. There is no good team. There is no bad team. There is not. I mean, watching how bad Buffalo is, and folks, they're bad. Let's just take a deep breath. I know on ESPN they get to see Josh Allen highlights, and it may be on your fantasy football team, you might be in first or second place because of James Cook and Josh Allen. They are bad, Mike. Okay, when you are playing a Thursday nighter at home, let's just walk this through. At home against Miami, you barely get by. Okay, Miami played all out, and this is late in the fourth quarter, they rough the punter while they're getting the ball back, obviously, to take the lead. And then two, a gift wraps, a interception. You need both of those to occur if you're Buffalo to win at home. Then you get a mini bye. Very advantageous. You get a mini bye early in the season, and you're all out once again at home. These are both at home to beat New Orleans. Guess what? You suck. Okay, so that's the first thing. Buffalo sucks. There will be a good team that will knock them off if they even make the playoffs. I mean, that you're in survival mode against Miami and New Orleans at home. Sorry, Mike. Not for me, right?
I think that's a bit harsh. They're missing two of their best interior defense.
Everybody's missing somebody. We can go down. We can go down. Look at Baltimore's D. We can go down everything.
They're 4-0. They're making the playoffs. I will be happy to lay any amount of number you want to put out on that.
I'm telling you that they need that getting a mini bye, and playing Miami and New Orleans, and you're just good enough to win both of those means you suck. So that's just my opinion.
I think that's a little harsh.
Well,
that's your opinion. I'm not.
Miami was 0-3 this time last night. And New Orleans is 0-4. So that's just my take. Baltimore also is going to beg you to believe, per ESPN, that it's injury and that Lamar Jackson, who, again, they were 1-2 before Lamar walked off with the hamstring. Is he hurt, or was it that he was just frustrated by Steve Spagnuolo's defense? Which one is it? I hate it when they play the week later. I mean, are you genuinely hurt, or were you just couldn't do anything against Spags' defense and you walked off the field? Because that's right. Isn't that the question right now on Tuesday? If you play next week, then that means you walked off because Spags' defense was frustrating you and you didn't want any more, which is what, unfortunately, I think happened. And it also points to your horrible record in the postseason that you got no heart. So they're a bad team also because, again, they're living on prayer.
Can I defend them real quick too? If you are missing 7 defensive starters, which they are, that is a fact. There are not any other teams in the league that are missing 7 defensive starters on defense. They got their ass kicked. Don't get me wrong. I picked the game wrong. But losing 7 defensive starters in week 4 is problematic for any organization.
Tampa's been able to figure it out on offense. I mean, look at how Tampa's been losing all those guys on the offensive line. They moved guys to different positions, and seemingly they figured out. It's not like, again, the Baltimore Mike with their starters is not the 85 Bears. So they're not shutting people down. That's a narrative about their old team with Ray Lewis. That's not who Buffalo is, or excuse me, Baltimore is now.
I'm not saying that it is, but comparing the teams they've played versus the team Tampa has played, it's not fair. They played the Chiefs, the Bills.
I got you. Henry's 2 fumbles are insane. Henry's 2 fumbles are absolutely bigger than all the injuries that they've taken on.
I'm coming for every man.
It's killed them. I think it's killed their season, as those 2 fumbles will kill their season. I'm of the belief that we don't have a bad team. We don't have a good team, like Vegas said.
There's no great team.
We just don't.
For sure.
Parity is the name of the game. When the Micah deal took place, Vegas didn't move the line, the win total for either team. I mean, yeah, it's fun to think that Green Bay's defense got monumentally better by getting rid of Kenny Clark and adding Micah Parsons. It's fun for people to think that. Vegas does not think that, but it's fun for ESPN, I guess, to put that out there and make it seem like they lost someone that was just kind of carrying his weight and added a beast. That's not the truth. Kenny Clark is fine. He had a nice game the other night against Green Bay, coming back, playing his old team. I was watching Kenny Clark play. So I just don't think that we have a good team, and I don't think we have a bad team. I don't think, even if you told me who the worst team is, I mean, who are you going to say? You're going to say it's New Orleans? You're going to say it's Miami? Are you going to say it's Cleveland? They can play with anybody in this league. They've proven that with this little rendezvous in Buffalo that we just witnessed. I mean, Mike, how bad is Buffalo? A mini bye? And that's what that's the best shot they can make? Shouldn't they be beating those teams 40-10?
I mean, no, I don't. I mean, they scored. What did they score? 39 points
Against who? Against who? Which one?
against New Orleans.
No, I don't think they scored that much. I
31. They scored 30. Yeah, and they did not play well. But again,
it's off a mini bye.
look how. But like trying to predict who is good, it doesn't matter if you're good in September. It matters on banking wins. The more wins you have, the better chance you have to be in the postseason. And the better chance you have to be in the postseason, that's when you want to be good. I'd rather my team was getting hot in November than hot in September. Who was the talk of the town for the first 2 weeks last year? The Saints. The Saints were putting 40 up on everyone. And we all kind of were like, oh my God, are the Saints for real? Yeah. Yes, folks, they weren't. Because Derek Carr was their quarterback. And if there's anybody I can trust less than Kyler Murray, it's Derek Carr, because he will check down Charlie U and duck out before it's time to take a hit. But I don't, all you're doing in the first 2 quarters of the season is you want to have a shot. So Buffalo, there's no the preseason's limited, tackling is limited. So a lot of what we're seeing is bad football in September. October, November, that's when the real teams show up. Pittsburgh has a 2-game lead over Baltimore. That is very, very surmountable. I don't think Pittsburgh is a team that I would be terrified of. Aaron Rodgers they are at least figuring out how to get Metcalf the ball early, and he looks like a freight train when you get him going. But I think that Pittsburgh is a team that Baltimore can catch. I do worry that that when you have that many injuries, it's just sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, I know you pointed out how Detroit got manhandled last year. They got hit with the injury bug worse than anybody. The Ravens are going through it right now, and it can't be helpful that they have the history of blowing games in the back of their mind. And do I think Lamar pulled himself out? Probably not, but I don't think he was dying to stay out there either. And I don't think it made sense to put him out there because they weren't going to win that game.
No, Mike, they're down 10 when he walked off the field.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not down 30 points. Okay, when he waved the white flag, I'm not gonna let you off with that.
Then I think he's legitimately hurt.
Is he playing this week? I think he's playing this week. So I think we can link. You're a lawyer. We can link his performance in the playoffs and walking off the field down 10 at Kansas City because he doesn't want to face Spagnuolo, who I believe, don't quote me, but I believe before the game was 5-1 career against them. So he doesn't like Spagnuolo's defensive looks. And if he plays,
they're 1-7. They're 1-7 against them, and I was still dumb enough to pick them to win.
Well, but Mike, if he plays this week, then you got an elephant in the room about Lamar's character. Okay, if he plays, if don't do the win one for the Gipper and I'm a tough guy routine and play this week, when the corollary is you're really not, because you should be out there battling at Arrowhead. We'd all like to come back for the comebacker against New Orleans. It's hard to be out there and playing Spagnuolo's defense at Arrowhead. That's kind of about your character. I don't know if he's playing this week, but my gut is that he's gonna play and he took himself out of the game. That's just my 2 cents.
And if he is not, I will say he definitely looks like a slower version, meaning he does not look as explosive. I'm sure he's still in the 95 percentile of NFL quarterbacks, but he doesn't look as explosive to me as he did in the first 5 years of his career. But I don't think it's that's if he comes back, this isn't a defense he wants to come back against.
No, I do.
The Texans.
There's some. I don't think we have a good team. I do think a couple weeks ago, as I said on this show, the winner of the Bears-Dallas game was the last team getting into the NFC playoffs, and I'll stand by it. The Bears will be the last team to get into the playoffs per that game. I think they'll have if I look at my crystal ball and take it to the streets, I think they're going to finish with the same exact record as Dallas. I'm seeing 8-9 for both of them, and they're going to win the tiebreaker and go to the playoffs. 8-9 will get you the last playoff spot in today's NFL. So that's just my prediction. They scream early on of being the last playoff team, the Bears, and the Cowboys scream of being first team out. I don't know where you fall in it.
I think that's possible. I probably think it's closer to 9-8 that'll get in. So one of them's going to have to win a game that they shouldn't otherwise win. And I think I'd rather have be playing the NFC. I don't know. The NFC East and the NFC North are comparable. I don't know who their out of conference games are. So
Mike, the Bears are getting in.
Bears get in on the tiebreaker.
I'm a lifelong Bear fan. They don't block kicks to win on the road. Okay, that's the bottom line. That just doesn't happen. And that is the solar eclipse for a Chicago Bear fan, that moment. And they're getting in the playoffs. I'm sorry. That's getting in the playoffs is going to be easier for them than blocking a quick kick to win on the road.
When has a Bears fan ever over evaluated something?
Me, the guy you're looking at, I'm always anti glass half full, or excuse me, glass half empty with the Bears. So I just think they're going to be the last team to get into the playoffs because of the block kick and because of the Dallas win. All right, you got the tease. I want to hear your picks. Like I said earlier, Mike is 7-5. That's a couple solid weeks. Been 2-1 back-to-back weeks, or is it 3 weeks in a row now?
3
weeks in a row. That's good. That's good handicapping, folks. That is good handicapping. Wherever you get your nation from, this guy is 6-3. Last 9 visits to the window. T-box is his. Go ahead, Mike.
in square for life.
Okay.
So we are. I mentioned I do not love any of the games. It's bad when I'm starting with the Dolphins -1.5 at Carolina. Starting, I've gone against Carolina once, and they apparently took it personal, and went out and took Atlanta to task. Atlanta reawoke and played a great game last week. So I don't know what the hell happened the week before. I just know that Carolina is paying attention to me specifically. They're dogging me. So I'm gonna fight back. Tua gets injured. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's obviously a bad thing in that you lose a decoy, but the way that he was sort of controlling that locker room and just the negative body language he would have on the sidelines, it may be a good thing that now we need the mad boy genius to go back in the lab and figure out what to do. And I think it might invigorate him to get more players involved. I was shocked by Darren Waller's play on Saturday. Monday night, last night. So
Darren.
Yeah, Darren Waller came in, and he's been retired and already had one failed rap career, and is back playing in Miami. So
And bigger than the 2 touchdowns, Mike. And the first touch, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The first touchdown was a great catch in the back of the end zone. But bigger than the second one's just a cookie. He's wide open. But bigger than it all was covering up the onside kick at the end of the game. He was a part of the good hands team, and he came in, and that was a nice sliding cover that he made to seal the game.
yeah, and I think that if you're not focusing your offense on one guy, you sometimes get your best week the next week. Carolina, like in that New England game, every time I watch Bryce Young, it's like it baffles me that the evaluation could have been so wrong. I didn't. I know I watched him play at Alabama, but every single person was putting a caveat on him in the draft. They would say, well, he's smaller than any other number 1 pick. He's not elite athletically, but he has amazing processing. And it's like, well, he doesn't have a big arm. And I'm like, all right, if you have elite processing, that's one thing. But are we sure that you're doing that when you're playing at such a skill advantage against every other team? When he was on Alabama, he was playing with the best guys. You know, that's like, you see these SEC quarterbacks that come in. If they're playing at one of these premier programs, are they necessarily the best guys or playing with the best skill players?
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And that's why, again, I have to interject. That's why you have to, just like as if you were on Wall Street and you were trying to depreciate a stock versus appreciate a stock. I want to take a quick second here because that's the analogous to what Mike just said. So if you're assessing, grading, whatever you're doing with Tyson Bagent, who played at Shepherd University, okay, in West Virginia, then you have to appreciate his numbers because you know he's playing with nobody. Not one person will be in the NFL on any part of the team, but specifically offense because he's a quarterback. On the same keel, you have to depreciate Anthony Richardson's numbers because he's playing at Florida and he's playing with everyone who will be in the NFL. So one guy's numbers have to be graded, you agree with that, Mike, as an appreciation, and the others have to be depreciated. If you let Tyson Bagent play on Florida, guess what? He's arguably going to be better than Anthony Richardson. We'll never know. That's for the GMs to have to understand, but I don't know if you agree with that or not, Mike, but if you put Tyson Bagent out there, who's to me the best backup in the game, he's going to be great at Florida.
With that, but I haven't, I know more about his father than I do him. So
The arm wrestler.
arm wrestling father. So I know you're a part of the Tyson Bagent hive. So
No, but do you agree with the assessment that you have to appreciate versus depreciate?
you've got to factor it in the level of competition, and you would have to factor in if you're going to do that. You also have to factor in the level of competition that Tyson Bagent is playing against. To be fair, if he's playing at Shepherd and he's playing against, I don't know, like Farmer, who does Shepherd play? I've never even, I was making a bad joke.
Garnet Word. Who knows?
So if he's playing them, probably not a lot of blue chippers or a lot of guys that are going in the NFL in there. So if we're going to depreciate for the people he's playing with, we have to depreciate for the people he's playing against as well. And because Anthony Richardson is playing in the SEC against guys that
NFL talent. No question.
so just to be fair, and again, you're making me defend a Gator. That's kind of rude. This is several things that I've had to do. The kicker in all bit. The kickers now Florida. Next thing you know, I'm gonna have to talk about how noble an institution Penn State is.
Exactly.
Except if it's a big game. So I'm taking the Dolphins. I think they can. I think that they can score, and I still think that the Panthers' offense is not clicking, and I am not sure that Bryce Young or Dave Canales is the answer. I think Dave Canales is getting such a huge bump over the resurgence of Baker, and we're now seeing three guys in, Liam Cohen and Grizzard. There hadn't been a hell of a lot of drop off, and he had the worst rushing offense as a coordinator. So, I'm not positive that Dave Canales is the answer. So I'm going to take the boy genius. And my next pick, again, this was a slog for me. I stared at him. Then you're changing the numbers on me at last minute, trying to get to my head. I know what you're doing, trying to rattle me. I'm going to take the Commanders on the road in Los Angeles. I mentioned earlier Joe Alt being out. I hate going against Jim Harbaugh. I couldn't stand him at University of Michigan, but the guy's an amazing coach. He will have the team ready. I'm doing this with the belief not that Marcus Mariota is going to play, but that Jaden Daniels is going to play. Another thing, the reason, and it's +3, right? Did that change? Okay, so I'm getting 3 points. I don't think there's a home field. I do not think there will be a home field advantage. Agreed. Los Angeles. Washington is an old school NFC East traditional team. There are tons of people out in Los Angeles that have grown up as Commander
Fans. Yeah.
So, and that place will be 50-50 minimum, if not a home field advantage. So with that, I still think they can score. I'm a little I think Daniels could have played this weekend. He practiced. I think they didn't want to play him on the Atlanta turf. And I don't blame them. There's a couple places I wouldn't ever want to play. MetLife and any indoor facility that doesn't have some sort of grass. Los Angeles is, I'm concerned with how easily, they got kind of run on and their defense has been dominating teams. So I think the Commanders can get after him, and I'll take 3 when it probably, if it was any other stadium, they'd probably be getting, they would probably be getting 5. So I think that the number here is closer, not 5. They'd probably be getting 1. I think that's probably closer to what the spread is.
Okay.
So, and again, the last one I took, this is like the all irony podcast for me. I'm going to take the Saints. I'm who dat. That would be me making a stupid decision, going and supporting the New Orleans Saints. I think the neighbor's injury is going to be problematic. I think that New Orleans showed, if you look at New Orleans' schedule this year, it's an absurd opening 4 weeks. And
at Seattle, at Buffalo.
Yep. And then they played, what was the other game? They had 2 other tough games. They played one other NFC West team. So I looked and I was, so I thought maybe I assumed they were going to be bad, like borderline worst team in the league bad. But they kind of hung with everybody. They played Arizona and they played San Francisco, and they played both those teams close.
Played Buffalo tough.
They played Buffalo. I mean, that was close in the fourth quarter. That was going to be a big problem in the death pool if the Bills went down. So Spencer Rattler, I still don't understand why they picked the guy from Louisville who's older than Spencer Rattler. He's actually was in the same high school class as Trevor Lawrence. He is a rookie.
I had a tough time pronouncing his name. Is it like Shoei or Schaff or something?
It's like Shuck, I think is what, or I think the OUGH is like a harder sound. He was in Trevor Lawrence high school class.
I didn't know that.
Trevor Lawrence, meaning the same recruiting class. Trevor Lawrence is on his 5th year. This guy is a rookie. If he gets in the game, all bets are off. I'm praying for them to play him because he is, everything I've heard about him is he's a mirror of Derek Carr in that he will check down. He's afraid to take hits, and because he's had a history of injuries in college. But Rattler is younger, so I just didn't understand the wasting a 2nd round pick on a guy that is a year older than your starting quarterback. I know they didn't want Rattler to be the quarterback, but to be honest, he's been serviceable, and the Giants are coming off a huge win. They're the toast of the town. We got, Scattaboo and Dart. They're gonna, those two may have a Broadway show by the end of the season. But I also think this is one where it looks like they are going to be going into that game confident, and I think New Orleans can shut them down. So, I deserve everything I get if I put money on the Saints, but I'm putting money on the Saints. I'm taking the -1.5. I think it's -1.5, right? Not plus.
Correct. Correct.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical.
So give us your picks one more time, Mike.
I took the Dolphins -1.5. I took the Saints -1.5, and I took Commanders +3.
Okay.
So I don't feel good. I feel good about one of them, sort of.
And again,
You'll probably feel great about it.
Mike is 7-5. Here comes what 4-8 sounds like. Okay. I will start in my comments. Is a tough one. It seems like a weekly play for me. I always seem to like these guys based on the number. That's Cleveland. Cleveland is getting 3.5. They're making Minnesota spend a second week in Europe. Cleveland has to go out there. I think that's favorable for Cleveland. I think it's kind of reverse logic. They'll sell it to Minnesota that, hey, your guys get to settle in and have 2 weeks. I don't think being in Europe for 2 weeks is good for them. Cleveland getting a really, really generous number there. All things Cleveland to me have been great other than the ending of the Baltimore game, and they were in that game talk about a hard schedule. Baltimore, Detroit, at Baltimore. It's been murder's row for Cleveland, and they've hung in there. I'm totally fine getting 3.5 on a road weary Minnesota. I think Minnesota's road weary, not Cleveland in that spot. Second play, New England +8.5 against Buffalo. You know what I think about Buffalo? New England's a perfect team that's going to pound the rock on them with Stevenson all night long. It's going to be there for them, Mike. They're going to absolutely be able to move the ball. And to me, that number is way, way too high in a game that's a divisional game, and that is not a bad New England. And from what I've talked to quite a few sportsbook bosses over the years, they've always shared a common sentiment on NFL betting, Mike, which is the Sunday night dog is always inflated because of people chasing, and for whatever reason, people feel comfortable with the favorite and not the dog. I don't know why. You're not looking at one, but that's just a common response from somebody, is to believe that the favorite is so much better. And this to me reeks of that. I think they've got 2 points packed in there. That thing should be 6.5. That could be 6.5. Because, Mike, with Stevenson and with May, they're going to take the crowd out of the game with that running, with getting the first downs. It's gonna be laborious for the fan to sit there and watch them move the clock. And it's what you thought the Jets would do last night with Miami. I think New England's going to do that with Buffalo. So my second play will be New England plus the 8.5 against Buffalo. All right, here's my favorite one, maybe of the season. So I'm going to put myself out on a limb here. I don't know why this one jumped off the page. I love Denver plus 3.5 against Philly. I absolutely love that. And I think this Denver team is such a solid team, and we haven't seen them yet, and we're going to see them on Sunday. I don't know where you are with them, Mike. They're beating Philly. They're going to Philadelphia to bring that thing down. They are such a tough team, and you don't give them 3.5. You just absolutely don't. I don't like how Philly comes into the game, allowing Tampa to go up and down the field. playing in 120-degree weather in Tampa, I think has a little bit of a residual on them. I don't think Denver was asked at all last night against Cincy. And folks, this is a good to great Denver team. I don't know where you go on that, Mike, but I love Denver.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to see the best out of Knicks. Knicks played well last night. Can we take that seriously though with that defense? That's the problem. I mean, the Bengals defense is, they're not Dallas, but they're pretty damn close. And who's at? I think it's Al Golden, the defensive coordinator out there. They just don't have the dogs, and they spent all this money on wide receivers, and I can't get over how badly Browning has. Remember, that guy was like the toast of the town too.
You were good. He was good.
And he is.
And Mike, there's a lot to question of Denver. I mean, as hard as New Orleans has had it, as hard as Cleveland's had it on the schedule, is as easy as Denver's had it. Denver's out there at home playing Tennessee. They played last night on Monday night against Cincinnati. Easy. Don't get me wrong. This is the inner belief I have on this Denver team being really live. And I do believe in key numbers. I think 3.5 is too much for them. I think it's a 3-point game either way, and I like getting the hook, and I really do believe in Denver.
Yeah, and I will say that I think I mentioned this somewhere, but like Sean Payton has spent the entire offseason talking about how great this team is. And they haven't, again, it's a quarter poll. They're, what are they, 2-2? They probably should be 3-1, but for hero referee calling.
No, that was their come out party, Mike. This is it.
This is where you got to show. And their defense is very good. They put a strength on a strength when they had Surtain and they took the first round draft pick this year. I know they wanted Hampton as their running back, and the Chargers jumped up and got him. So it'll be a real test for him. Something about Bo Nix that when he's going to be, this will be one of the better defenses he faces. And I will say, if the referees officiate the game the way they did against Tampa with Winshawn Mitchell, who was holding guys the entire game, and to the point where even Brady was pointing it out. He's like, he's getting a little grabby, where you see the guys. I'm like, that is an easy call, and they're not calling it. But again, I'm bitter. That if you haven't figured that out this far into the podcast, I'm a bitter person. But I think Denver can get it. I still worry that their running game isn't quite there. Who's the guy from? He was with the Baltimore, then he was with. Why can't I remember his name? It's not Harvey, but who they haven't got going. I'm drawing a blank on their running back, but they still, for Dobbins, yeah. For as good of an offensive line as they have, they really don't dominate the running game. And I think you saw this week, you can kind of run on Philly. I mean,
that's what, and I like that the pros, I track this stuff, and I like that the pros love Denver in this spot. I love it. This thing was at 4.5, and we're Tuesday 6:30 at night, and they've already moved it to 3.5. The 4.5 days are over, folks. Just like the pros love the Jets this week against Dallas. That was at 3 earlier today when Mike and I are texting each other. We're trying to make lines that are realistic. I mean, we're not going to take. I would have, of course, loved to have had the Jets +3. There's no 3s out there. We're not going to even talk about it. It's all 2.5. So the pros are on. Make no mistake about it. The pros are on the Jets. The pros are really on Denver. I mean, just a love affair with this spot against. And I guess, like you said, Mike, they're going to run the ball in Philly. They're going to run the ball successfully.
And a lot of that though did come in the second half, which it was for people who don't live here. The Eagles came down a day early and thought that was going to get them to acclimated to the heat. That is not how it works down here. It was. He didn't leave the house until the sun went down. So the other one, I will say that what was the first one you had?
First one I had was Cleveland +3.5 over.
Yeah. The only thing gives me any pause with that one because I agree their defense is great, and I think their offensive line, especially with Carson Wentz there, but they are starting Gabriel, and they're going to be conservative with him. And, I would be nervous about Gabriel going up against the defensive coordinator for Flores.
Flores. I hear you, Mike, but I think it was a sharp move by Cleveland to do it this way, which is we know probably known this. We're going to do this for weeks. We want to give him his first start overseas because this is listed as a home game. This is a home game for Cleveland. So instead of having the fans boo him and rough him up and really get under his skin, let's do it overseas. I think is a really sharp move by Cleveland, and this is the right time to do it. And I think, right, they'll be conservative, but should he have some rookie jitters, it's better that he does it overseas than at the dog pound.
Yeah, and you do get a little bit of a bump when a rookie comes in.
Right. That's the 3.5. That's right. That's the 3.5.
No, I'm saying the team does. You know what you're getting with Flacco.
Right.
Older than I'm not sure who Flacco talks to on that team, but he's
the owner. Maybe the owner.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that gave me a little pause. I would say I would monitor Ed Oliver's status for the for the Bills, because he does make a huge difference in their running game. And I do think that number, if you're going to take it at 8.5, take it now, because I have a feeling it will go down. Because I think people are going to wake up on Sunday and go, do you remember Buffalo almost lost to the Saints? Are we sure they're good? And then I think the number will get down back to that 7.5.
Or they watch Taking It to the Streets and they get from me, fade Buffalo. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. What's your thoughts? So do you like those three plays, Mike, this week? I mean, come in off an 0-3 or no?
I mean, like I said, I thought this was a hard week. Do I like them? I didn't even consider any of the three games because I didn't look at them. I was afraid of the Browns because of Denver I looked at for a long time, and I almost picked them, and I thought I was letting my biases set in because I hate Sean Payton, but I also additionally hate the Eagles. So for me, I was like, if hate is a powerful force and I don't want to abuse it. So I just stayed away, but I have Denver written down. It was one of my 4. And I wasn't taking Philly because I do think something is amiss in Philly.
Yes.
But I said the same thing last week against the Chiefs, and they look like the sun's shining back on them. So, and they're going to be a problem once Rishi Rice gets back in.
Yes. No, it's going to be back to being KC again.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Folks, enjoyed it. Again, this show is brought to you by rightwoodmedical.com, and we will see you next week right here on Taking It to the Streets.
Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade, so never too high, never too low, till we meet again.